Gomer Pyle, USMC, 1964–1969, was a heartwarming and hilarious spin-off of The Andy Griffith Show, capturing the innocence and charm of small-town America through the eyes of the lovable Gomer. The show quickly became a fan favorite thanks to its wholesome humor, memorable characters, and standout performances. But as time has passed, several beloved cast members who brought joy to millions have sadly left us. In this video, we take a closer look at the lives and careers of the Gomer Pyle actors who have tragically died. From their early beginnings to their final days, we honor their contributions to television and the legacy they left behind. Join us as we remember the laughter, the moments, and the stars we've lost. Jim Nabors was born on June 12, 1930, in Sylacauga, Alabama, and took on the role of Private Gomer Pyle in 1964 at the age of 34. He brought to life a character so guileless and kind-hearted that it became a cultural icon, his wide-eyed innocence and catchphrase "golly," masking the darker complexities of the man behind the smile. The entertainment industry of the 60s was ruthlessly intolerant, and Nabors, a closeted gay man, endured relentless gossip, including a notorious and unfounded rumor that he had married Rock Hudson in a secret ceremony, an urban legend that haunted them both. Hollywood's quiet blacklist of queer actors meant Nabors often had to make career choices based on damage control rather than ambition. In private, Nabors was reportedly guarded and distant, a man deeply scarred by the era's cruelty. He ultimately married his partner Stan Cadwallader in 2013, but only after retiring and long after his legacy was cemented. Nabors died of natural causes on November 30, 2017, in Honolulu, Hawaii, at the age of 87. Roy Stewart was born on July 17, 1927, and joined Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1965 as Corporal Chuck Boyle at the age of 38. His character was loyal, disciplined, and often comic relief caught between Carter's temper and Gomer's confusion. But Stewart's off-screen life was far from innocent. After his TV fame dimmed, he desperately clung to relevance, dabbling in fringe theater that often blurred the lines between performance and exploitation. His name was quietly linked to several adult-themed stage shows in the 1970s that damaged his mainstream reputation. Rumors circulated within industry circles of a hidden drinking problem and inappropriate behavior backstage, never confirmed publicly but enough to blacklist him from several television projects. He remained unmarried, and some speculated that his erratic behavior masked personal struggles with identity and isolation. He reportedly lived alone for years, estranged from family and friends, his career quietly fading into obscurity. Stewart died from cancer on December 25, 2005, in Woodland Hills, California, at the age of 78. Frank Sutton was born on October 23, 1923, and took on the role of Sergeant Vince Carter in 1964 at age 41. On screen, his portrayal of the short-fused drill instructor added fire to every episode, his bark louder than his bite, though fans loved the rare glimpses of warmth beneath the gruff exterior. Known for his explosive temper, he reportedly clashed with directors and writers, demanding line rewrites and questioning comedic timing. While never embroiled in headline-making scandal, there were persistent rumors of his drinking problem, something close friends suspected stemmed from his battle-scarred past as a World War II combat veteran. His rigid discipline sometimes turned inward. He was rumored to berate himself brutally after performances he considered subpar. His marriage remained intact, but acquaintances whispered about Sutton's controlling nature at home, particularly during the declining years of his career when he struggled to land meaningful roles post-Gomer Pyle. Performing in a dinner theater production in Louisiana on June 28, 1974, he died suddenly backstage of a heart attack at 50. Barbara Stewart, born January 3, 1930, stepped into the role of Bunny in 1964 at age 34. Playing Sergeant Carter's affectionate and patient girlfriend. Sweet on screen, Barbara's private life was stormier than many knew. Her marriage to actor Dick Gautier was plagued by infidelity on both sides, Barbara reportedly had an affair with a director while shooting a made-for-TV movie in the 1970s. She suffered from depression, and close friends later revealed she had undergone electroconvulsive therapy after a nervous breakdown in 1978. Though her public image remained spotless, she struggled for roles after being labeled unreliable due to frequent cancellations and erratic behavior on set. Despite once being a promising comedic actress, she spent the later part of her life doing voice work and small appearances in B-list productions, a far cry from her early fame. Her last years were marked by physical decline and growing reclusiveness. Barbara Stewart died from complications of a muscular disease on May 15, 2011, in St. George, Utah, at the age of 81. Alan Melvin was born on February 18, 1923, and took on the role of Sergeant Charlie Hacker in 1965 at the age of 42. Hacker, with his booming voice and confrontational swagger, was crafted to antagonize Sergeant Carter but never truly crossed into villainy. He was bluster without venom. Behind the comic veneer, however, Melvin's life was far from colorful. Despite decades in the industry, he was often dubbed the ghost of sitcoms, always present but never spotlighted, his career marked by typecasting and creative neglect. Though praised for professionalism, whispers on set suggested Melvin had a dark temper when off-camera. Co-stars mentioned his icy silences and need for control during rehearsals. While no major scandals stained his career, insiders from the Phil Silvers Show era claimed Melvin covertly lobbied producers to fire rising young actors he saw as competition. In private, his reclusiveness masked decades of strained friendships and emotional withdrawal, some attributed to unresolved PTSD from wartime service. Alan Melvin died on January 17, 2008, at age 84, succumbing to cancer alone. Ted Bessel, born March 20, 1935, joined Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1965 at age 30 as Private Frankie Lombardi, a breezy, affable Marine who provided comic relief. Bessel's charm on screen masked a far more volatile off-screen reputation. While later finding greater fame on That Girl, Bessel was notorious in Hollywood for his off-putting arrogance and rumored affairs with several married co-stars. Crew members often described him as moody and manipulative, known to undermine colleagues to secure better screen time. His transition to directing was rocky. He was quietly fired from a major studio project in the late 80s due to clashes with producers and erratic behavior on set. Privately, his multiple marriages ended in bitter divorce proceedings, with one ex-wife alleging emotional abuse and coercion. Bessel was reportedly being treated for high stress and heart problems shortly before his sudden death. On October 6, 1996, he died from a ruptured aortic aneurysm in Los Angeles, California, at the age of 61. William Christopher was born on October 20, 1932, and joined Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1965 at the age of 33, portraying the tender-hearted Private Lester Hummel. On screen, he was the image of innocence, but off-camera, he lived a life shadowed by personal turmoil rarely spoken of. Though later venerated for MASH*, Christopher struggled with the pressures of being seen as morally untouchable. Despite his calm demeanor, sources close to him described an intense internal conflict, a guilt-ridden man overwhelmed by his inability to cure his autistic son, which led to years of depression masked by smiles. A lesser-known scandal nearly erupted in the mid-70s when a former assistant accused him of manipulative behavior and inappropriate emotional dependence, though the claims were quietly buried under studio pressure. Christopher, tormented by the disconnect between his public image and private despair, eventually found solace in advocacy but never fully escaped his demons. He died on December 31, 2016, at the age of 84 from non-small cell lung cancer. Herb Vigron was born on June 5, 1910 and appeared as a waiter in Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1966 at age 56. Though often cast as a snarky everyman with a Brooklyn bite, Vigron's prolific career concealed a more turbulent reality. Behind his 350-plus credits, he waged an internal war between artistic pride and career survival. A trained lawyer who never practiced, Vigron was known to manipulate contracts and threaten walkouts over minor disputes, a fact whispered among casting agents who labeled him a necessary nuisance. He was privately combative about his supporting roles, convinced he was robbed of lead opportunities due to what he called his ethnic face, a critique he frequently voiced in bitter tirades at Hollywood parties. A chronic gambler, he often found himself working nonstop to repay debts. His sardonic wit masked increasing dissatisfaction, and rumors suggested he was investigated during the 50s for tax evasion, though charges were never filed. Vigron died on November 29, 1986 from cancer in Los Angeles, aged 76. Elizabeth McCrae was born on February 22, 1936, and stepped into the role of Luann Povey in 1966 at age 30. Luann was the quintessential Southern belle, but McCrae's real life bore little resemblance to the sugary charm of her TV persona. Behind the scenes, she battled a turbulent marriage that ended in a bitter divorce, marred by accusations of infidelity and emotional abuse. Co-stars remembered her as distant, even volatile, attributed partly to her well-hidden addiction to prescription tranquilizers, a secret she carried for years while working on set. Though she reinvented herself later as a substance abuse counselor, it was born from personal experience with rehab stints and breakdowns. Industry insiders revealed she had been blacklisted briefly in the late 70s after an explosive confrontation with a network executive over uncredited script changes. Despite the public narrative of grace, McCrae's life was scarred by betrayal and quiet suffering, cloaked in a smile that seldom reached her eyes. She died on May 27, 2024, at age 88. Tom Hatton was born on November 14, 1926, and joined Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1964 at the age of 38 as Captain Murdoch. Though he was a stoic figure on screen, known for authority and order, the off-camera Hatton was a storm of contradictions. Best known for his wholesome TV hosting in Los Angeles, few fans knew of the quiet controversies surrounding his early career. Studio records and former producers hinted at forged broadcast clearances in the early days of the Popeye show, where Hatton aired cartoons without proper licensing, a misstep that nearly cost him his career. More darkly, in the 80s, whispers circulated about a suppressed legal dispute involving a young assistant who accused Hatton of verbal intimidation and exploitative labor. The case was allegedly settled out of court, swept under a mountain of good PR. Despite his image, Hatton was known in private circles as controlling, obsessive, and suspicious of colleagues. His declining years were marked by isolation, partly due to bridges burned behind studio doors. He died on March 16, 2019, at the age of 92. Paul Brier was born on February 21, 1910 and appeared in Gomer Pyle, USMC as a bartender in 1966, aged 56. A perennial supporting man, his on-screen roles echoed his off-screen existence, constantly present, rarely celebrated. Though his career spanned 200-plus credits, he was typecast relentlessly, leading to bouts of depression and a persistent feeling of being invisible in Hollywood. His marriage to actress Claudia Brier, though seemingly steady, was marked by long separations and quiet resentments, particularly after their son, Paul Brier, found success in music, something Brier never achieved himself. Colleagues recalled his chronic bitterness and resentment toward younger stars who rose faster with less effort. Behind his dependable image lay a man who drank heavily in solitude and often raged against the system that ignored him. He was once rumored to have been involved in an altercation on a studio lot that ended in a quiet suspension. Brier died on August 30, 1985 in Van Nuys, aged 75, his final years clouded by obscurity and unfulfilled ambition. Ken Lynch, born July 15, 1910, joined Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1965 at the age of 55 as a no-nonsense FBI agent, true to form for the stern, steel-voiced actor. While respected professionally, Lynch was notorious for being impossible to work with. Actors dreaded table reads with him, citing his volatile temper and open contempt for lesser performers. His obsessive compulsion for line accuracy and disdain for improvisation led to frequent confrontations. More disturbing was his quiet alienation from his only daughter, who, in a 1993 memoir, painted him as emotionally abusive and absent, calling him a stranger I shared a house with. Lynch was also a heavy drinker in the 50s and was quietly removed from several radio productions after violent outbursts during rehearsals. Rumors persisted of an arrest for disorderly conduct that his agent allegedly buried. Though he managed to keep his image clean, the man behind the badge lived a life riddled with bitterness and broken ties. He died on February 13, 1990, at the age of 79 from a viral illness. Peter Hansen was born on December 5, 1921 and took on the role of Lieutenant Colonel Van Pelt in Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1964 at age 43. His character stood as the epitome of stoic military order, often serving as a straight man to the chaos around him. But Hansen's real-life story was far more tangled than his composed on-screen persona. A decorated World War II pilot, he returned from war with what would now be recognized as PTSD, which strained his marriage and contributed to a prolonged estrangement from his eldest son. Though he enjoyed fame as Lee Baldwin on General Hospital, insiders noted he had a tense relationship with co-stars and frequently clashed with producers over creative control. Rumors followed him for years about a quiet rehab stint in the 70s after being caught in a DUI incident that was buried by network PR. Known for his polished interviews, few ever glimpsed the deep emotional scars and mounting frustrations he carried in an industry that pigeonholed him. Hansen died on April 9, 2017 at age 95 of natural causes. Herby Fay was born on February 2, 1899 and played Harry in 1960 SIXS Gomer Pyle, USMC at the age of 67. His character was a small-time scene stealer, bursting with vaudeville quirk and streetwise charm, often punctuating episodes with unexpected wisdom hidden in comedy. Though Fay carried the legacy of stage comedy into TV, his transition from vaudeville to screen wasn't as smooth as it appeared. He was blacklisted briefly in the McCarthy era, suspected of leftist leanings due to his union advocacy, which cost him a handful of roles and led to a decade-long dry spell. Behind the scenes, Fay's marriage quietly fell apart in the late 1950s amid allegations of gambling debts and infidelity, though these were never formally addressed. Fay was known to be abrasive with younger actors, dismissing them as lazy amateurs, earning him a reputation for being difficult. Though not involved in explosive scandals, his erratic behavior and paranoia about being forgotten plagued his final years. He died on June 28, 1980 in Las Vegas from heart failure at 81. Arthur Badenides was born on April 9, 1923, and played Bronson in Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1965 at the age of 42. His character brought an edge to the comedic backdrop, often embodying a cynical toughness that broke through the show's usual charm. But off-screen, Badenides struggled to shake the typecasting that locked him into second-tier roles, despite early promise on stage and in noir films. Though he maintained a steady career, whispers in the industry spoke of his clashes with directors over creative control. His notorious temper once led to him storming off a TV set mid-shoot, halting production. His personal life was a tangle of failed relationships, including a short-lived engagement with a much younger aspiring actress who later accused him of emotional manipulation. Badenides reportedly battled depression throughout the 1980s, exacerbated by the death of his only brother and a lawsuit involving back taxes. He died on January 10, 2000, at age 76 from natural causes. Sid Melton was born May 22, 1917, and played Friendly Freddy in Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1966 at age 49. His comic energy lit up every scene, but Melton's off-screen life was far from lighthearted. Despite decades in showbiz, he struggled with deep insecurities about his height and appearance, often referring to himself as a freak in a world of tall men. His career was hampered by a long-standing feud with a major sitcom producer who allegedly blacklisted him from top-tier roles in the 1970s. Privately, Melton was reclusive and deeply mistrustful, living in a cluttered apartment filled with surveillance equipment. A failed marriage in the 1950s ended with his wife filing for annulment, citing emotional cruelty and obsessive need for control. Former co-stars described him as funny on screen but moody, even combative, behind the scenes. Melton also had a gambling addiction that left him nearly broke by the late 80s, despite decades of steady work. He died on November 2, 2011, at the age of 94 from pneumonia. Ray Kellogg was born November 12, 1919, and portrayed a bank guard in Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1964 at age 45. Though a minor character, he embodied the stern, stoic authority figures he often played. Yet Kellogg's off-camera life stood in contrast to his clean-cut image. A persistent rumor in 1950s Hollywood claimed he was blacklisted briefly, not for political ties, but for a backstage brawl that left a producer hospitalized. He was known to vanish from sets for days, citing migraines, though some crew members believed these were code for alcohol binges. His first wife filed for divorce in 1961, citing neglect and bizarre behavior, including episodes of paranoia and religious fanaticism. Kellogg's only daughter distanced herself from him after a heated argument went public during a court proceeding over her trust fund. Battling cancer in his final years, Kellogg refused treatment for months due to a belief in faith healing, only to later relapse and die in pain. He passed away on September 26, 1981, from cancer at age 61. Pricket was born on October 25, 1914, and portrayed a bank teller in Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1966 at the age of 52. Known for playing fussy spinsters and gossipy secretaries, Pricket projected charm and cheer on camera. But privately, her life was stormy and plagued with misfortune. Married 3 times, she endured a particularly toxic second marriage to a failed producer with gambling debts and alleged emotional abuse. Though she kept up appearances, insiders whispered of her fierce temper and backstage breakdowns. Her career, though steady, stalled in the late 60s amid industry gossip that she was difficult, a term often used then to dismiss aging actresses. She drowned herself in alcohol after a string of miscarriages and a public divorce scandal in 1972 that left her financially drained. Despite efforts to bounce back on stage, her health deteriorated rapidly. She died on April 14, 1976, at 61, from uremic poisoning, alone, and virtually forgotten by the industry she once enlivened. Olan Soul was born on February 28, 1909, and played an insurance adjuster in Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1966 at the age of 57. On screen, his character was meticulous and almost comically bureaucratic, echoing Soul's signature precision. Yet behind his composed persona lay a man wrestling with deep personal restraint. Despite voicing Batman and becoming a staple of American pop culture, Soul's career was plagued by typecasting. His soft voice and bookish demeanor barred him from leading roles, leaving him perennially in the shadows of more charismatic stars. In private, he harbored a deep resentment toward Hollywood's superficial star system, which he viewed as corrupt and exploitative. His long but uncelebrated career left him bitter in his later years. Though never publicly disgraced, Soul was infamous among colleagues for his obsessive perfectionism, reportedly walking off sets over minute script changes and alienating co-stars with his rigid demeanor. He passed away from lung cancer on February 1, 1994, at age 84. Tai Andrews, born March 19, 1920, took on the role of a chief petty officer in Gomer Pyle, USMC in 1965 at the age of 45. A commanding presence on screen, Andrews brought raw authenticity from his wartime service, but off-camera, his life was fraught with volatility. After changing his name from Tiger to Tige to gain Hollywood appeal, Andrews struggled with cultural identity, often caught between playing exoticized ethnic roles and fighting typecasting. He was notoriously combative during the Mod Squad, allegedly clashing with producers over political storylines and demanding rewrites to avoid reinforcing racial stereotypes. Married with 6 children, Andrews juggled a turbulent home life, where his strict parenting style and extended filming schedules created deep rifts. 2 of his children later spoke of emotional distance and unresolved trauma. Though never embroiled in overt scandal, he was known in industry circles as domineering and resistant to collaboration. He died of cardiac arrest on January 27, 2007, at 86, a complex figure remembered as much for his off-screen intensity as his screen gravitas. Who is your favorite character in Gomer Pyle, USMC? How do you feel knowing that the actors have passed away? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos. Thank you so much.